Good evening. Welcome to the Village Board meeting of the Village of Pleasantville. Today is Monday, August 23. If you're watching live on Monday, August 23, we encourage you to call in if you have questions or comments. Our call-in number is 769-1677. So again, if you're watching live, not a replay, 769-1677. Let me apologize to everybody that we're starting 10 or 15 minutes late. We had a couple of things in work session, including a presentation by the New York City Department of Environmental Protection, which is the agency that's responsible for the New York City water supply and watershed. And they were here describing a project that they need to undertake out beyond our Nanahagan Pond area in order to protect the New York City Catskill Aqueduct. It turns out that Nanahagan Brook, which is the brook that ultimately feeds down into Nanahagan Pond and feeds the water that you see coming over the dam that's just adjacent to the pool, has over the last 5 or 10 years changed its course quite radically. Perhaps a process that may have been begun at the time of Hurricane Floyd, nobody's quite sure. But the effect of all of this is that Nanahagan Brook has been battling its way in a strikingly different location from where it always stood, and that has started to erode the earth on top of the Croton Aqueduct at one specific point. And so in order to protect the aqueduct, New York City DEP is proposing a project that will go through a series of approvals, and about which you can hear more if you're interested, that would involve restoring Nanahagan Brook in a wooded setting out beyond where most of us are normally found to its original stream bank. So that took a little longer than we expected, and I apologize for the lateness, but it was time well spent. So welcome to the Village Board meeting. Our next scheduled meeting is Monday, September 13 at 8 p.m. with a work session at 7. Our regular Monday meeting that would have taken place on the Monday previous is Labor Day, and so there's no meeting. So our next regular meeting is Monday, September 13. Are there any oral communications, comments from anybody who wanted to speak?
Can I just make that announcement about
sure.
the, I'm sorry.
I have a couple of announcements later. Go ahead.
Oh, no, should I do them then? I'll do them then. That's
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Sure, come on up.
Village Board.
Joseph Carella, 9 Boot Street. This is the noisiest place I've ever lived in. And I know all disturbances can be prevented, but some can. And whoever allowed these businesses to establish themselves on Boot Street and Marble Avenue did not live there, because if they did, they wouldn't have permitted it. And these businesses may be zoned commercially, but the sights and sounds that emanate are not limited to and exclusive to their property. They affect me. Now, my property is adjacent to and in very close proximity to some of these businesses. Arbin is very respectful and considerate of the community, unlike some of the others. Behind me is an AC company. I tolerate them. Family Medical, constant issues with them. I got to call the police or the code enforcement officer. But this Westchester Stone has been a thorn in my side for years, and I'm really irked. And I've been here before complaining about them. I was here when a woman from the other part of the village complained, and it's all about their early morning tractor trailer deliveries. I was under the impression that deliveries here are 9 a.m. Patty's telling me that they're 8 a.m.
Well, they're 8 in residential, 7 in commercial.
Well, again,
Or non-residential, and that's part of the problem. I know they're even earlier than that.
again, as I said, they may be zoned commercial, but they're too close to residential, and they're affecting me. And they, so evidently, they're, I
think you said that they've been coming around 6:30.
yes, they seem to be exempt from the rest of the law. Everybody else is 8 a.m., they're 7 a.m.
Tractor trailers are coming and backing into Westchester Stone off Marble?
Yeah, what they do is they come in through this part of town. I hear them coming, and they got to pull up on Boot Street. And they go right in front of my house to back in there. Now, these drivers are supposed to be professionals. They don't need Boot Street. Arbin gets tractor trailer deliveries. They even sponsor a race car driver, and their tractor trailer set for that purpose is huge. They don't use Boot Street. I guess Arbin's drivers are more professional than Westchester Stone's. So I'm humbly asking the board to annul this privilege that Westchester Stone has, putting a tractor trailer in front of my house in the morning.
So, and what are the problems you have from Family Medical?
Family Medical, parking. But most of the time, it's the CRP. I have to call Steve constantly because they seem to forget the time for the garbage pickup.
So it's the trash pickup that's occurring too early, or?
It's family medical. Basically, that, I mean, I got people there, they're always blowing the horn, they put up with that. But the tractor trip, the garbage pickup, they've come at all kinds of hours. They've come as early as 4:43 in the morning. But it's not supposed to be before 8 a.m. on weekdays and 9 a.m. on Saturday. So I have to constantly call Steve, and he has to remind them. But this tractor trailer from this Westchester Stone is really irking me. Because he ties up the street, he also ties up the street.
How long has this been going on?
Too many years. I've been complaining before. Now it's really gotten to the point I'm really irked with
And
them.
it happens how many times a week?
They come on Wednesday mornings. You can set your watch by them.
Really? So it's only Wednesday mornings?
Yes.
Okay, so we can pursue that. Steve Buckafuska can talk to Westchester Stone and find out.
We've tried that, Mayor. We've tried. I've tried it. They are very adamant and obstinate. They insist on putting that truck in front of my house.
They said they can do it.
Well, that's what
Oh, yeah.
this is what I'm
All right,
asking
well,
the board to
I mean,
rescind.
I know, for example, that Arbin reconfigured their driveway a bit in order to make it easier for their deliveries to get in there, and it may be that there is some similar improvement to Westchester Stone's driveway that would allow them to back in there without using Booth Street as a staging spot. I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know that we would have the capacity to compel that, but we could certainly look at it, and we can look at the front part of Booth Street, as you well know. I think almost just exactly up to past your house is the village.
Right.
And then just beyond that is the town of Mount
Mount
Pleasant.
Pleasant, right.
So we'd have to look at the question of whether there's some restrictions that we could enact on Booth Street itself in that section that we are responsible for that might help you out in that circumstance.
Look,
Yeah.
these drivers are supposed to be professionals. I've seen them turn in tighter situations. They don't need Boot Street. They got plenty of room on Marble. And if Arbin doesn't have to go on
Right.
Boot Street, neither do these people.
So what do? They go down Booth and then
He
back
comes up,
in?
he comes up Marble, he parks on Boot Street and waits for the owner to open the gates,
What,
which impedes the traffic also.
He goes down?
He comes down Marble from this direction,
Yeah,
from a westerly direction.
I see.
And he sits on Boot Street right in front of my house and waits for the owner to open the gates, which also impedes the traffic, which I should call the police on, but I
And
hate
this
to.
is what time?
In the car, and the truck
Wednesdays
is
at
running-
6:30.
The truck runs?
Sometimes he runs, they also are aware, I guess Steve has let them know that they're not supposed to allow it to idle for too long. But I got the engine, you hear the compressor, you hear the safety valve discharging.
yeah,
I mean, if you
that's-
you come by my window and you'd understand.
You know,
Okay,
Okay.
thank you, I appreciate that. We will pursue it and see what we can do.
Mayor, I'm gonna tell you, we've tried tact with these people and they just disregard.
All right, we'll try.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Caller? Go ahead, Bill.
Hi, Mindy.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. It's Bill Chia. I have a question about the signs I'm seeing around town for a detour for Sunnyside. Now, I'm assuming that Metro North is going to do something at the Sunnyside Bridge, but I have no idea what it is, when it is, what's the extent of the project, how long is it going to last, and why is it happening like the week that school opens?
Here are the answers, and Patty may know more because she's been chasing Metro North for the exactly when and how long questions. Metro North came to us quite some time ago and let us know that there needed to be some structural repairs to the bridge at Sunnyside. They anticipate making those repairs, and it will in the end not produce any change. It will remain a one-lane bridge. They are simply shoring it up in some way. And then they disappeared and nothing happened. Suddenly, as you see, these orange signs are popping up, and honestly, I have a little trouble figuring out exactly what they mean, because all roads seem to point to Sunnyside at this point. But at any rate,
A very different direction.
the good news is that in the end, the work will be accomplished and have no effect on that circumstance. They're not widening the bridge into 2 lanes or anything of that sort. The harder question is exactly when are they going to start and how long is it going to take? And have you gotten an answer yet from them,
I
Penny?
am not, Mayor. I don't know. office I called, but I will get an answer. I know that when we spoke to them a while back, the project was to be starting in June of 2010. So, you know, they'd been delayed for whatever reason. At that point in time, they were telling us at least 6 months of construction, but now they're heading into winter. So I prefer they didn't
Well,
start now.
And it's a point of
But
significant concern
it
to
is
the
what it
schools
is.
because
Yeah.
it's the route by which kids and equipment and the like head from the schools down to the practice fields after school. So
Right.
if it's, we need to get an answer to that, and we certainly will. It's not discretionary on our part,
Oh, I
but
know.
by the same
I mean,
token,
the timing is just terrible.
right.
A lot of people walking there.
We
A lot of
certainly
people.
have, I hope, the force of some influence over it. So that was one of the things on my agenda to mention.
If you might want to remind Maddox that when they were in looking for something from the village, they represented our relationship as nothing but symbiotic and great. And this isn't exactly, as pointed out at that meeting, this is more of their the mode by which they operate. You know, if you need something from them, they're very hard to track down. And it's really not very acceptable that you've been trying for a couple weeks to figure this out and have gotten no response from them.
It wasn't that long. It was actually just a few days. The signs popped up.
When we
like
started seeing the
last
signs go up. So,
So will that be closed down? I mean, there will be no pedestrian traffic at
No.
all for
No.
however, for the duration?
Right.
Which,
And, yeah,
which is
The football
tricky.
team walks through there to get to.
I know.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a little
Well,
tricky.
So, Bill, you're asking questions that are obviously important and have been on our minds.
Not tricky.
When we get an answer to this, we'll post it on the website. We'll obviously announce it at our next meeting, but our next meeting is until September 13. And maybe, Patty, when we know the lay of the land, we can also send out an email
alert.
blast.
Right, yeah, no, I'd
as
have
we do.
to. I
So-
actually did that back in June. I mean, I'm
No, I know.
embarrassed by
So-
it. You know, we
all right.
sent all that out
So-
months ago and then nothing happened.
Thank you for pointing that out, Bill, and it gives me a chance to remind everybody that we have this mechanism by which you can sign up for emails from the village, and you can check off the ones you're interested in getting. You can get a weekly email with the agendas for the village board meeting. You can get the agendas for planning and zoning and architectural review board. You can get general emails of interest. If you go to the website, which is pleasantville-ny.gov, almost every page has a subscribe button near the bottom, and you can sign up, and it's a tremendously convenient way to get information, and you can get agendas and just peruse them and throw them out if they're not of interest. But it's also a mechanism by which, when we have something like this going on and get the information to follow up to Bill's questions, we can shoot it out in an email blast and everybody can see it at the same time. So I encourage you to sign up.
I appreciate that, and I think I am signed up to all of those.
I bet you are.
I did have one other minor complaint, which is minor from my perspective, but not from my wife's. We have been getting a tremendous amount of tractor-trailer traffic on Bedford Road. I know Bedford Road in this section is not a through truck route. For whatever reason, trucks are avoiding Manville Road and coming on Bedford. And it is anywhere from 6 o'clock in the morning till, you know, late afternoon. During the summer, it's not as significant a problem, but as school gets back into session, this will become a significant problem if this continues to allow to happen. I don't know what our enforcement is on the no truck route on Bedford Road. And I know it's supposed to be for local deliveries through this part of the village, but it is an issue that I...
Yeah, I've noticed the same thing. So, and I'll pass it on to the police chief to ask specifically. We have at various points had specific posts with officers who are not otherwise called to another purpose on truck enforcement. In fact, it was pretty effective for a period of time. Another of the things I'm going to announce shortly, we have a list of announcements to mention, is that we are undertaking a back-to-school enforcement campaign that will focus on the morning drop-off and the afternoon pickup time period, and have a more visible police presence with some extra resources thrown at it during those time periods. And so that will hopefully be another opportunity when truck drivers who decide it's easier to take the Bedford Road route than the official truck route would get snagged. So I'll make sure that gets on the radar screen.
And just one more aside, after the unfortunate accident at Grant Street on the Sawmill the other day, I know one of the first responders there who has been pretty much devastated by it. Is there any pressure that we can bring on the county to get those signs corrected, to do something about that intersection that will actually do something? Because the signs in the southbound lanes are so ridiculous you can't see them.
Completely faded, right?
When you do come upon them, you can't read what they say.
Right.
And it's too little too late. Now, I noticed today there was the special enforcement group of the Westchester County Police Department patrolling that area, again, in the too little too late department. But the Grant Street exit is a major issue. We know how many Pleasantville residents we have had that have been severely injured, near accidents, just so many things that have happened. And this one is the icing on the cake. I think we need to do whatever we need to do to pressure them to correct that intersection on the Sawmill before we have more tragedies. And again, because it is a place where school children cross in the morning, where people taking kids to school cross from Saws from that side of town, it's at a point where we as a village, we can't allow this to continue. And if it means shutting it off and closing down Grant Street as an entrance to the Sawmill, then so be it. But we can't lose lives anymore at Grant Street and the Sawmill River Parkway. The county has got to do something, and if we have to pressure them to do something about it, then we have to do it.
Oh, I agree with you. The first thing to be said is obviously the primary point is loss of life or injury, and then the secondary point is the one you started out with, and that is that our volunteer first responders are the ones that bear the brunt of trying to rescue people and assist them in a situation like this, and so it's a significant burden on the community. The issue is a state issue, not a county issue. The enforcement patrol is handled by the county under contract to the state on the Sawmill. It's a state DOT issue, and the village is on record a number of times requesting that the faded signs be replaced and that new signs be installed, and thus far have not achieved that, as you can see. And we will renew that request again. I don't know that the state has opined on this issue recently, but their standing position has been to try to reduce the number of grade crossings on the Sawmill whenever they can. And at some points in time, the state has recommended that the Grant Street intersection be closed. That obviously would enhance safety in that situation, but it would create a significant change in the circulation, and it would be an issue for the people that commonly cross from that side of the village to this side. And the question ultimately is it clear that we're at the point where the state needs to take some action? So in the end, we will certainly have and may already have renewed our standing request to get these signs replaced. I can tell you that the State Department of Transportation is extremely resource strapped at the moment for obvious reasons, and it's been hard to get a reasonable response on any subject. There are a number of circumstances where we have officially noticed them about a safety condition having to do with a guardrail or a sidewalk or whatever, and they say, okay, fine, get in line. So I'm sure more will be said about that in the near term when you have a tragic accident like we had the other night. As you rightly point out, it produces a lot of Monday morning review of what's going on there. So a number of residents who live on that side of the village and who are within earshot of these accidents when they happen have also made the same comments to me.
It seems to me that we're at the point, and I am not a person that believes in litigating matters, but when we have a resident that is severely injured and because the signage is poorly marked, we have a first responder who is a resident who has to deal with the images that he's seen from this particular accident and whatever future ones happen to be. Is there a point in time when we as a village, if we are not getting a response from the state over this intersection, over the process by which they correct their faults, and it's their faults, is there a point in time where we file a lawsuit against them to get it corrected? And I know we have spent more money on lawyers than any of us cares to think about, but this is a matter of safety and lives. This is something that is ongoing. My understanding is that there are 4 times a month that we have to respond to incidents at the Grant Street exit.
There have been many accidents there, no question.
And if we are asking our responders and are asking our residents to deal with this 4 times a month, 12 months out of the year, and it's not being corrected by the state, at what point do we say, okay, this is enough? We need to do something. You need to do something. Or we as a village are going to sue to have it corrected.
I don't know what the basis for that would be, but there may very well be a basis for that.
How about a failure to perform?
I would certainly be. I'm just not sure whether we would have standing to do that, but maybe we would. It's worth a discussion. I am inclined to think, as you have already pointed out, that in the aftermath of an incident like this, it will be easier to get attention on this matter. And I think honestly the major question is going to be whether there's a means by which safety can really be improved in that location or not. And if obviously the signs and the like are things that ought to have been fixed a long time ago and hopefully will be fixed right away given what happened, and that's a step in the right direction. But the confirmation of the road at that point and the curve on the southbound direction makes it an extremely difficult crossing even in the best of circumstances. Another person expressed concern to me about the potential for a pedestrian who might be in the area when there's an accident and the flying debris that occurred that night. So there are all kinds of hazards there. So
it is one of the most dangerous intersections I've ever seen from all of my travels, every place I've been. That is one of the most dangerous places that I've ever seen because of the poor signage, because of the way the intersection is set up, because there is a traffic light there, but there are no turns allowed. However, the signage doesn't really note that carefully enough.
The signage needs to be fixed right away. I mean, I guess the other question that will have to be contemplated in this connection is on those hopefully infrequent but nonetheless inevitable occasions when the sawmill is closed south of that point because of flooding. I don't know what the implications are for that.
Let them get off the traffic law.
All right, can I quote you?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, Bill. We will follow up on those matters.
Have a good night.
Likewise. I had a couple of announcements to make, and let me lead off with the one that I alluded to during Bill's call, and that is that school begins on Tuesday, September 7, and we remind everybody that that's the time period when everybody's back trying to get their kids to school by foot, by car, by whatever, and it is centrally important that everybody obey the traffic rules, obey the school zone limits, and keep their hands on the wheel and not on a cell phone during that time period. So as those of you who watch these meetings regularly know, we have made a decision to move the crossing guard who was formerly at the middle school driveway on Ashland Avenue to a different location. That crossing guard post will now be established on Manville Road at Great Oak Lane. And our reason for doing this is that a number of people have brought to our attention the difficulty of crossing Manville Road at Great Oak. A number of people have expressed concern about not only the pedestrian conditions there, but also speeding conditions there. And in an effort to try to balance the many requests we have for these kinds of services amid a resource-constrained budget, we've decided to make that switch in order to try to address what seem to be the most pressing conditions. So I realize that's pleasing to people who use the Manville Road side of town and disheartening to those who think that a crossing guard at the middle school driveway was an important piece of the picture. And I can assure you that we will be watching carefully how this works out, and we'll be attentive to trying to address any issues that arise. But in that connection, I've talked to the police chief and asked the chief and the police administration to come up with a back-to-school safety program. And I want to report to everybody that when school gets started, we will be having some enhanced enforcement activities, looking for enforcement of speeding, unsafe driving, school bus enforcement, cell phone use, and crosswalk violations. So the message I have to all of us is that although we're busy and although the kids are late to school and although you have to get to work, you need to drive with two hands on the wheel, keep your cell phone in your pocket, keep the coffee in the drink holder, and pay attention to the signs. Because not only is it the right thing to do and important for our kids' safety, but the Pleasantville Police are going to have an enhanced enforcement program going on in school zones at various points that will not be announced in advance, and you are likely to get a ticket. So this is an important thing for everybody to respond to. I'd much rather see you think of it now and not think of it when you're having a ticket written out to you and therefore even later to work. So keep an eye out. Try to get that message out not only to drivers in your family, but to drivers everywhere else, that Pleasantville, New York school zones are not the place to be violating the rules. So anybody have anything more to say on that subject?
I know there was a song, keep, you know,
All right, we can
keep
use.
your eyes on the,
Okay.
what was it?
There we go.
Keep your hands on the wheel.
Okay, next meeting, Mindy will. Next
Keep
meeting.
your silly eyes on the road.
Mindy will come back with the full
I think
lyrics.
it's sometimes you're the windshield, sometimes you're the bug. That one?
I didn't know that
Oh,
one.
that's
See, you grew up in Queens.
That's a better one.
A couple of other things I wanted to report, and one of them is that Pace University has proposed what I think is a potentially really great program to the Chamber of Commerce. Pace has identified 4 or 5 or 6 weekends during the year when they draw a tremendous number of people to their campus. That includes the freshman move-in weekend when they have an academic convocation, the sort of incoming ceremony for new freshmen. They have a parents' weekend in October. They have various orientation and visitation days during the year, and they have a lot of activities around graduation. And so they've come to the Chamber of Commerce and proposed to organize a Pleasantville coupon program. They have hundreds and in some cases thousands of people, parents and kids, looking for a place to eat and something to do in the course of their weekend. And Pace is going to invite any Pleasantville retailer or restaurant to sign up and offer a 10% discount to anyone who holds a Pleasantville Pace coupon. Pace is going to set this up in a coupon program that will be part of their welcome website to these people and allow you to download coupons. So it's really a very nice opportunity, and a number of restaurants and stores I know are interested in participating. And it's part of a really long-standing good neighbor practice on the part of Pace. We appreciate their willingness to do this, and they're going to set up the whole thing and the infrastructure for it at their own expense. So that is much appreciated, and it's a good segue to remind everybody that it's the Pleasantville stores and businesses and offices and companies that are paying the commercial taxes that help support this community. And so whenever possible, if you can keep your money in the village of Pleasantville when you decide to go out to dinner or go buy something, you're helping everybody. I can tell you that in my household, someone will suggest going out to dinner somewhere, and I'm inclined to say, well, that's not in Pleasantville. So if you can establish a similar guideline in your own home and help our local Pleasantville merchants, that will be an accomplishment that helps everybody. So buy Pleasantville whenever you possibly can. The other thing I wanted to mention on the subject of the Chamber of Commerce is that shortly you will see a series of banners going up on light poles in the downtown. those of you who pay attention to the Chamber's promotional programs, they've had a Shop, Dine, Explore, Enjoy Pleasantville program, which is a theme that has appeared in a number of places. They have gotten sponsorship for a series of decorative banners that promote the downtown from shop owners and restaurant owners, and I think there are about 36 banners that will be going up in a couple of weeks that are not only, I think, appealing and attractive banners that will dress up the downtown, but each one of them has a sponsor's name on it, and don't hesitate. I know it seems a little geeky, but I think these merchants would be pleased to hear that you saw the banner, you noticed it, and you appreciated their willingness to help beautify the downtown. So there's another one to mention. Anybody else have anything to?
Oh, I do. Everyone that was so devastated by all the tree cutting by Con Ed, the PSC, Public Service Commission, is holding public hearings, which is a really big step. That's not something any of us anticipated, but they did open a case 10-E-0155 for transmission line vegetation management issue, and a number of people have filed various different complaints. The utilities have made a case, the County Board of Legislators made a case, the Village of Pleasantville passed a resolution which is posted on their site. Legislator Nona put together a joint task force between the Village of Pleasantville and the Town of Mount Pleasant. They're on there. But it's an opportunity for everybody to come out, and all of the frustration that you felt back in the fall of 2009 when we saw our neighborhoods pretty devastated. This is the time to come out and talk to the PSC and let them hear your case. They held the hearing today. Unfortunately, obviously, you didn't know about that one. But the other one tomorrow is 1:30 to 3:30 at the Greenberg Public Library. That's 300 Tarrytown Road in Elmsford. And as I said, 1:30 to 3:30. The other ones are in Orange County tomorrow, and the other ones are in Albany County, which are too far away. But if I urge everybody to come out, bring pictures, tell your story. They're there to listen to you and make a compelling case, because the utilities are there also making their case for why they did what they did and why they had every right to do what they did. So that's my 2 cents.
How was the attendance today?
I don't know. I didn't hear back.
Where was it?
The one today was in Yonkers. Yeah, it was in the Yonkers Public Library, 5:30 to 7:30. That one is right. Actually, it's tonight. I thought it was during the day. And then there was one also today in Rockland County. So I think the one in Rockland, that was 1:30 to 3:30. I heard through the grapevine later this evening that that was very well attended.
And
they have
are
a
there
very
actual
strong group.
PSC members?
There'll be 2 PSC members, 2 commissioners,
Uh-huh.
and I've been told that there's 2 that will be there. And then there's also the DPS, the Department of Public Safety, which is the working portion of the commission.
Uh-huh.
So,
Who we met.
yes, that's
They're
who
all
was
3.
here, that's who they were not commissioners. So the fact that the commissioners are listening to this is a really big thing. So tomorrow, the mayor is going to go and talk. The fact that we were one of the municipalities that did have a resolution, the mayor felt strongly that he'd be there, which is great. I'll probably speak for the Joint Task Force. That it's really important that they hear it from us. So,
Thank you, Mindy. Mindy, in her day job, is legislative assistant to County Legislator John Nona, our former mayor, and so she has her finger on the pulse of these issues in ways that have benefited us greatly. So,
and if you haven't gone online to see what has been filed, the county filed a compelling case. I mean, they have a number of appendixes with very good pictures, and they used some of our pictures as well. We also had pictures in our case also. Thank you, Jonathan. Some of your pictures there. And it's as long as you go onto the Public Service Commission website, and if you type in, and I've sent this out to you a couple of times already, case 10-E-0155. You could read everything that's been submitted, and you can see what the utilities are saying as well. And there's some very interesting things on there.
Okay, thank you. Two other quick things to report, and one is if you have not been down to the farm market this year, get thee down there. It has been a great event over the last several years, and it has turned into an even greater event now. The Memorial Plaza area has been reconfigured. The conditions are much more pedestrian friendly. There are about 10 additional vendors. There is a food truck making hot food and serving drinks and smoothies, many of these things made with farm market products. There's music down there, and I can't tell you what a great place it is and how good the stuff is that you can buy, and how good the karma is for the whole thing. A couple of people have said to me that they're coming from fairly distant places in the county because they like it so much. So thanks to the people who got this all started, Mindy being among them, and Brian way back when, and thanks this year to Peter Raghavan and his crew who have taken this thing this year and propelled it into a whole new level. So it's a great thing. Amid that, Tony Emerson continues to be a stalwart
Yes.
member of the whole thing. And if you were at the corn roast a couple of weeks ago, Pono Wong and his wife Jane, also people there from the beginning, are
That's
still
for
there.
sure.
So it's really a great thing, and the stuff you can buy is great. So last thing I wanted to mention, we touched on last time, and that is, as most of you are aware, you now have the option of getting cable TV either through Cablevision or Verizon. And Verizon began service some months ago, but up until now have not completed the wiring to allow them to distribute the signal from PCTV, from the government channel, and from the education channel. Over the last week, they have been working downtown and are wiring up down here for PCTV and the government channel. I think similar work is going on up near the school. Verizon had a 180-day period in their contract to complete those connections, and so
What are we at, 179?
we're getting close to 180. I'd have to count, but the good news is they have been on site recently, and so those 3 public access channels are going to be available either on Cablevision or on Verizon quite shortly. So we look forward to that being accomplished, and when we know what the channel assignments are on Verizon, we can remind everybody where to find those channels on Cablevision, where to find them on Verizon, and be reminded also that all of PCTV's programs are available on demand video as well as live web streaming at pctv76.org. Thank you, Shane McGaffey, for shepherding that great development. Anything else to add to that?
Nope,
Let's go to the resolutions.
that's me then.
Public
Well,
hearing.
we have a public hearing, right.
So moved.
Is there a motion to open the public hearing regarding local law amending Chapter 173 Vehicles and Traffic?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Patty, do you
This
want to?
should be simple,
It
yeah.
should be
There-
simple. We've talked about it before.
There are various sections of the vehicle and traffic law that are proposed to be amended. All of these involve amendments that are necessary as a consequence of the work at Pleasantville Road and Bedford Road, the intermodal project that we just completed, where the traffic signal is now up.
Is it working?
They're waiting on some signal coordination.
Right.
So
So-
it's blinking, so right
And
now
and
you're
do we
not.
have any idea when they're going to come and actually synchronize these things and get the light into action? It's the state?
Yes.
When they change the signs.
So it could be years.
Waiting for Godot here? What are we?
That was a great play. We'll see. I don't know. You know, I mean,
Oh,
I
man.
did my best. There's no more, it's.
All this work to have a blinker
Yep,
light
I
for the
know,
next
I know.
year?
Anyway, the parking regulations, the on-street parking regulations are changing on Cooley Street. They're currently signed the way that they're proposed to change. We tried it out for the past month. It works really well. We shifted the 2-hour parking from the east side to the west. We cleared up the east side for a loading zone and for some limited parking at the end of the street. That would be in effect once these local laws are enacted. There are also new stop intersections that were not in place in the previous design. One being as you turn off of Pleasantville Road by Hellers and head up Bedford Road. The other is you turn off Bedford Road and head down Marble by Jean-Jacques.
Those had previously been yields,
They
no
were
stop.
previously yield intersections. The county has determined that they need to be stop intersections under the, under whatever engineering guidelines they are using. And we're also prohibiting turns, left turns out of Cooley Street onto Bedford Road and left turns out of the plaza onto the plaza because of our new cut by the gazebo and because people seem to do it regularly at this end of the plaza, and we need to make sure that, that they don't. So, that's it, in a nutshell.
Any comment from the public or calls on this subject? 769-1677. For the most part, as Patty described, we're ratifying conditions in the code to reflect the changes that have been part of this new construction.
I have a question. Where is the no left turn when you come out of the in Memorial Plaza? When you come
Either
out
exit.
Pardon me?
Either, well, this isn't an exit at the
That's an
southern end.
entrance, yeah.
Yeah, but people had been taking lefts, but where the gazebo is now been opened up.
Opened up.
Yeah, and at the
There's no
top,
left turn.
and at the top end, there's no left turn. There's never been a left turn.
Right.
But
In
it
other
hasn't
words,
been-
when you're coming up the
Yeah.
elbow
When you're at the end
to
of the
get out to
monuments,
to
right.
Manville Road,
Oh,
you're
yeah,
coming
yeah,
over the
yeah,
bridge.
right.
Some people try to make an extreme left to get
Right.
back down to Grant Street. So
Yes.
that is obviously a
Right,
bad
not,
idea.
not a good idea.
Right.
Not a good
No, I'm
idea.
just thinking, why can't you make a left when you come through the cut
The
through?
site
Well-
distance.
Is it just a site
I can tell
distance
you,
thing?
I stood there this weekend and watched it
Mm-hmm.
for some period of time, and there are a lot of people violating that. And I wonder whether there's some way in which we can enhance the signing, because what happens is people have to pull up past the sign that says no left turn in order to see around the traffic. And at
Right.
that point, if they didn't happen to notice it, they don't see it again.
Because to be honest with you, I've done it like 3 times. Made the left turn.
But
We'll
we'll
probably
never
have to
do it
put one
again.
across, yeah. A lot of times, we'll probably have to put one across the street by the post office on.
Well,
That's
what I
the
was
way
gonna
it should
suggest,
be,
right.
yeah.
But I can tell you from observing it, among other things, unless we were willing to lose more parking spaces to your left as you're trying to pull out of there.
Okay.
The sight lines are very poor. It also happens to coincide with the crosswalk, and so a right-hand turn does not engage the crosswalk. A left-hand turn engages the crosswalk immediately.
Right.
And so there's just an awful lot going on in that area, and left turns are just a bad idea.
See, but the whole thing is then, no matter what you're doing, if you're going through Memorial Plaza in that direction, whether you're going through the plaza or you're going on in front of the post office, when you're coming through there, there's no way you could go back,
Well,
no matter what.
Wheeler.
If you get onto the commuter side, the commuter parking side of Memorial Plaza,
You're dumping
your
everybody
only
out
way out is to
onto
come
Washington.
back onto
Onto Manville.
onto Manville and come up with a railroad bridge. That's
Right.
the only legal way out.
So you're
And
putting,
honestly,
you may be dumping a lot of traffic onto Wheeler,
But I mean, it's been that way
It's
for
always
20
been
years.
that
I
way.
mean,
except for
But
that
except
this
this
is.
time, you're
yeah.
actually, we're dumping some traffic who wants to go up to, say, the Locust area, Locust Avenue area. Those guys can go right out and turn left.
right.
Yeah, everything went
Now
to
you
Wheeler
can get,
prior.
you
In
can
the old
get out
days,
to the
you
light.
had to go all the way around.
It was really bad, yeah.
Yeah,
This-
and I would say
a better
that-
dispersion,
that
the way it is
now that
now.
we've had this in place for quite some time, I think it's really a success.
Mm-hmm.
I do
think
too.
that the
I do
the
too.
traffic on Wheeler
Right,
is
you
way
guys see it
down.
more than I do.
Well, I mean, you
so-
can get out now halfway through the commuter side near the gazebo, and then come
But I
back.
still have to make a right.
You have to make a right, but you can
See,
get
I
to the
couldn't get back.
You can get to the traffic light at Manville, right next to Valvoline. Up until now, you couldn't do that until we made this new cut through. So,
That's true.
I think that's going to be problematic, though. I mean, this is why when we did this, I was wondering what we were going to do with it in terms of sealing up that cut through during the week, because even if you've got a sign all the way on the other side of it, it's got to be a big sign because there are people parked in front of it saying no left turn. The other question is, can you somehow put some planters in there that sort of guide people to do an automatic right coming out of there, and do something a little bit more creative there as opposed to what is basically just sort of a scarred in the middle of that intersection now.
I think you're right, maybe some kind of a wedge planting, something that
Yeah.
forces people to go to the right as they come out of the
And
block.
nothing, maybe nothing too expensive or fancy, but
No problem.
something that could be effective and look nice, as well and encourage the behavior that we want, as opposed to sticking more big signs up that aren't gonna really be effective.
Aim people a little bit to the right, just in the
Well,
traffic.
it's like the egress out of the Target, the Target parking lot up in Mount Kisco. There's one way to get out
That's
this
right.
right turn.
I wouldn't
lane,
know
and
because
they
it's
sort
not
of-
in Pleasantville.
Right, well.
I know.
But that aims you off to the right. You can only turn right there.
gotta buy- you
It's sort of the
can't-
same thing.
Never mind. I forgot we
Thank
were on
you.
the air.
You will work on that.
I was going to say something.
All good points, but I do think, when we made this cut through, which was an idea driven by the farm market changes, we recognized it to be an experiment, and I do think that it's been a success,
Huge
not
success.
only on the weekend, but during the week as well. It has given people a way out when they are otherwise trapped by people waiting in the drive aisle to pick up.
You haven't had any problem, you
People
haven't had any
train.
complaints about people losing the parking space?
No.
Okay.
No, and I don't disagree, but we just need to make it better I think of some way to make it a little bit better as opposed to just throwing some more ugly signage at it that may not be effective.
I agree.
If we're gonna do it,
Yeah,
let's
I
do it
agree
in
with that. I agree.
in the sort of fashion that we were looking at doing it, and that is to make that area nicer, not just make it more tarmac, more signs, more just, and people are gonna ignore it anyways.
Well, what's there right now is a little bit temporary because we weren't sure it was going to work, and I think you're quite
Absolutely.
right. The time has come now to think about institutionalizing it in a way that has a little more fit and finish. That
Okay.
reminds me, although I can go back to it because we're still officially in this public hearing. So, any other comments on these subjects?
Nope.
Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is closed. What I was going to mention was, further to the discussion we had a little earlier about the crossing conditions and the traffic conditions on Manville, especially in the area of Wilton and Great Oak Lane. That is an area where Manville widens out quite substantially. It's also an area where people in the morning or in pickup time have potentially been stuck in some traffic up by BRS and then perhaps have
Cut
a
around.
head of steam up by the time they are free of it and tend to pick up speed through that area. So another of the things that we're looking at is whether there is some reconfiguration we could do in that area, particularly with that traffic island, that might also be beneficial on a day-to-day basis to help sort of change the feeling of that area so it doesn't quite feel so wide open.
When I was in Bermuda, the signs in the school districts there are, kill the speed, not me. It has a picture of a little kid. Isn't that could you imagine those signs here? And then they have for around the, if it's senior living, they have street signs with really old people bent over trying to cross a road, and they have sweat coming out. It's almost comical that these are these are approved street signs. So I don't know. Maybe
I saw those, they're priceless.
Having had some occasion recently to read the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which is this big fat document
Right.
from the federal government, I can tell you that there is nothing
Nothing like
comical
that, right?
in the United
But
States.
could you imagine if we had
traffic
killed the
rules,
speed,
so-
not me, in our school districts?
I don't know. Hey,
I don't think it would go over too big.
whatever helps.
Might
Yeah.
be effective.
Okay, let's go to the resolutions. Number 177, Lindy.
177. That's.
That
the
is the
that
resolution
is
that goes
the
along with
actual
the- right.
resolution. Okay, I thought I can. All right, let me see how I could. I'm trying. I'm just looking at it.
Yeah, put forth on the record.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby approves local laws amending Chapter 173 Vehicles and Traffic, Section 173-60, Schedule 12, 173-75, Schedule 27, 4, 5, 6, 7, 173-68, Schedule 20, 173-54, Schedule 6, 173-58, Schedule 9, as follows. As in the record. Okay? Is that good enough?
Is there a
Is
second?
that, okay, thank you.
For the benefit of those watching, all of those sections are the changes just described by Patty in the context of the legally required public hearing we just had a moment ago.
We are ratifying the existing conditions.
Any further comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Jonathan, 178.
Resolved that the pre-check register dated August 23rd, 2010, covering check number 67,271 to 67,339 have been reviewed, and they are hereby approved as listed before. The general fund, the miscellaneous fund, the water fund, the capital fund, the refuse fund, the pool fund, all have amounts totaling $553,452.23, with the general fund and the water fund being the bulk of those.
Oh,
Is there a second? Any comments, corrections, questions? All in favor?
aye.
Motion approved. Ryan, number 179.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees has reviewed the minutes of the meeting held on Monday, August 9th, 2010, and they are hereby approved.
Is there a second?
Second? I
You
wasn't
ca-
here, can I second it? I'm not in.
You can.
Okay.
Okay.
Any
Yes.
comments or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Mindy, 180.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby authorizes the mayor to sign the Second Amendment to Wireless Communications Site Lease Agreement with OmniPoint Communications, Inc.
Is there a second?
Second.
Patty, you want to describe the goings-on here with our cell phone tower?
I'm actually going to introduce you to Larry Praga, our attorney from Keenan Bean, who had been assigned this project on behalf of the board. Larry and I have worked closely on this matter. There are two parts to it. One involves amending the agreement with OmniPoint, the company that owns the monopole, to allow additional antennas to be put on that pole. And the second part involves a tenant that wants to occupy that pole, but needs a ground lease from us to put their equipment, on Castleton Street in order to be able to use the pole. So, Larry, maybe if you don't mind, you can come up and speak to, I guess, the scope and content of the agreements the board is being asked to consider tonight.
Welcome.
Thank you.
For coming. And for the benefit of those watching who may not know, this refers to a cell phone tower that is on village land at the foot of Castleton Street, adjacent to the Pleasantville Dog Park and behind the MLA parking lot. It's a pole that was erected by OmniPoint and is on village land, and the village receives annual rentals for the tenants on the pole.
It looks like a big flagpole, in case anybody's mistaken it.
I think Patty adequately described the two agreements. The one with T-Mobile, which used to be OmniPoint, is again to amend that agreement to permit an extra user, which would be Metro PCS. The agreement originally with OmniPoint, now T-Mobile, permitted 4 users on the pole. Then at some point, I think 1999 or so, there was a 5th user, and now Metro PCS wants to go on the pole, so that would be the 6th user, and that's the reason for the amendment to the T-Mobile lease. As Patty indicated, Metro PCS, in addition to being having necessary space on the pole, has to rent from the village ground space for its equipment shelter. And that is the purpose of the lease between the village and Metro PCS. The negotiated rent is almost $27,000 per year. All of it goes to the village. And the term is coextensive pretty much with the rest of the users in that particular area, which goes to 2029.
So now we have a total of 6 tenants
You will
at the conclusion of this agreement.
Metro PCS, as well as T-Mobile, have to go through the Planning Commission in order to gain approval for the particular location of the antennas on the pole and the particular location and configuration of the equipment shelter. But subject to Planning Commission approval, yes, you would have 6.
Do they all have equipment shelters on land? I'd never heard of that before.
I don't know if some of them are sharing equipment shelters, but
Yeah.
all of the users need equipment on the ground in the vicinity of the monopole in order to foster their use of the pole.
And what would happen, I was on the board when this was first approved. Given the state of Wi-Fi in this country, wireless, I mean, what happens when the next guy comes? They want to put something up. I mean, is there a possibility of another pole being built? What's going to happen here?
Well, that would be up to the village.
But I mean, okay. So is there a limit? I guess my question is there a limit on the number of, contraptions that can be placed on this pole?
Legally, the limit is set by you. Technically, I don't know the answer to that question.
All right. And the last question is, when the last time we saw this, it was going to be on the outside. Now it's going to be on the inside.
Still proposed to be on the outside.
So,
Yes.
so the drawing that we're looking at here is not exactly correct because it's going to be on the outside here. It looks like it's
There is a notation on the drawing
It
that
does say
says
exterior.
flush
Yeah.
mounted, I believe.
flush mounted pole.
Which
but it's not
means outside.
exactly
They
flush.
put some type of casing over it so it looks like it's part of the pole. That's the way I thought he explained
Right.
it.
The
It
planning
looked-
commission will be
that-
very
that's why it's
interested
a
in
flush-
looking
yeah.
at that.
Who
But if you see this other set of drawings,
Oh, I see.
the planning commission would have a lot to say about that at this
So, I
point.
mean, as I recall, the pole could accommodate 5 users with their antennas inside the pole, and a 6th user requires the antennas outside the pole.
Yeah.
And those wraparound antennas are the subject of the review by the Planning Commission. So our approval of this is simply a requirement for these guys to go forward with their further reviews and site plan approval and all that, right?
That's correct.
So by doing this, we do not intend to suggest anything about the discussions planning should have, other than to say that if the proposal that Omnipoint should make to the Planning Commission meets with their approval and is ultimately approved, we are then willing to execute a lease. Fair to say?
Well, I
No,
think
because-
the import is the execution of the lease in anticipation, in advance
Right.
of planning commission approval.
Right. Oh, so I misspoke, I guess, other than to say, we're certainly not usurping the Planning Commission's role in this process.
That is
No.
correct.
And
That's
the
right.
lease we ratify now would be null and void if they fail to achieve Planning Commission
That
approval.
is correct.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Larry.
Okay, any other comments, questions, et cetera?
Well, I guess, my own, it's purely procedural, but is there a rationale that we can't send this, not looking to usurp the planning board, but certainly with the idea that, assuming that this is nearly invisible, it's something that we would like to see, given the revenue to the village?
My initial thought is that we ought not take a position on a matter that's the Planning Commission's responsibility, although we could talk about that.
And they've been done this
I think by
for a couple of
taking
times.
these actions this evening,
Right.
even though you're not
Yes,
prejudicing
that's
them, I
what
think
I
they
agree.
understand
Yeah,
that,
I think
you
that-
want them to look at it
All right.
and give it a rigorous
Give it
review.
critical review.
Otherwise, we
Yeah.
wouldn't have, I agree with that.
Right, so.
Okay.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved.
Thank you, Larry. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
What's this next one then? Is that him too?
No, we just did that, didn't
It's
we? 180. We just,
180,
We
180.
just did 180, and it's 181 now.
So this is is this the ground equipment
Yeah,
lease?
Oh,
$100,000
right.
Okay, yeah.
right. Okay, 181 now, that's
What?
Jonathan, right?
Yeah. A resolve that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby authorizes the mayor to sign the communication site lease agreement with Metro North BCS for the purpose of installing, operating, maintaining a communication facility and other improvements on the cellular tower located on Castleton Street.
Is there a second?
Second, Brian, this has the picture of the
Yeah, I see.
pole better, yeah.
Yeah.
Any further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 182, Brian.
But could I just say, you won't sign the lease until the
Thank you.
planning commission,
No,
or
I
this
believe
part
I
of the
will
lease
sign
is,
the lease,
yeah.
yes.
But they can get out of it if
But
they
the
don't
the
fit.
lease is
Okay.
null and
It's-
void if they don't
it's the-
achieve the approvals that are required at planning.
Gotcha.
Okay, 182, Brian.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following budget amendments we are, this is taking $6,898 from the Music Festival Revenue Budget Code, increasing $1,599 to festival overtime and $5,299 to festival expenses, for the total of $6,898. And appropriate general fund balance to cover claims / tax certiorari / half of Foxwood, and to cover the sick bonus retirement payout per PBA contract. We are increasing $350,368 into judgments and contract services, $12,440 into sick bonus / retirement payout, for, as I said, a total of $362,809.
Is there a second?
Second?
So,
Just a comment on that sick bonus retirement payout. That's contractual. That was for Artie Glass when he retired. In their contract, it becomes payable in the subsequent fiscal year after retirement. If we're not given enough notice, we can budget it. So basically, that's paying, his accrued sick time.
and in the case of the $350,368 to be paid to Foxwood, that is half
That is half.
of the recently negotiated tax refund that the Foxwood condominium has achieved, and much discussed at the time. It is a problematic thing for us, and the circumstances of it are also problematic. Nonetheless, we've arrived at what we all believe to be the resolution that we needed to arrive at, and so Foxwood, to their credit, agreed to allow us to split the payment into two parts, and the first is proposed to be paid here through fund balance. We have a continuing discussion about our long-term bonding and have the possibility of bonding part of this and then repaying the fund balance, which we may or may not elect to do.
Yeah, I believe, right, Mayor. I think we are proposing to bond all of it. We need to fund it now, though, because of the timing of the
No, I
court
understand.
stipulations.
I do understand.
Basically using fund balance
And that gets paid out when?
at the end of this month.
I see.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved.
It's me, right?
Mindy.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby approves the request from Sunnyside Avenue residents to hold a block party on Saturday, September 11th, 2010,
Get to it.
from 12 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Is there a second?
Second.
A great event, the annual Sunnyside Block Party. More power to them. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved.
Follow the detour signs to the block.
Yeah, right.
I was going to say, it will be worth noting, actually, when we know exactly what's going to happen to Metro North, Patty, so that the neighborhoods down the hill near the railroad bridge need to understand what the implications of this are. Right?
That's true. I mean, there are people walking there all the time. They'll be
So
very
they're closing from
disappointed.
50 to 121, so that's essentially closed from Clinton Street down to the top of the hill, I think, thereabouts.
That's
So
correct.
I guess at that point, then people coming out of Meadow or New Street would need to get out through Tompkins,
Right up through
Right.
Tompkins, yes,
because they can't,
to Clinton.
if
and then
if Metro North has
Street.
begun their work.
Right, that's right.
Okay, all the more reason to pay attention to and find out from Metro North. 184.
Resolved that the
John,
Board of
sorry.
Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby accepts an anonymous donation in the amount of $25 to the Clinton Street Center for Senior Programs.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you very much for whoever made that donation, much appreciated. Ryan, 185.
185, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the Pleasantville Benevolent Association, PBA, to establish a sick bank.
Is there a second?
Second.
That should be the Police Benevolent Association, shouldn't it?
Yes, Pleasantville Police
Benevolent Association. This is an agreement that we've negotiated with the PBA, which is a short-term agreement that affects only a specific period of time, and we have agreed to make arrangements that allow us to assist Officer Robert Goki in the form of a sick bank, where certain officers have donated some of their sick and vacation days to assist an officer who had run out of them. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved.
And it's a great thing that these guys step forward to do these.
It certainly is. Any further business, new business?
We're not doing 186?
We don't have one.
That's
Not now, we'll have to talk
we're not doing it now?
executive session.
Yeah.
I was notified on my doorknob today, and I bring this up only because it's the first time this has ever happened, that my water is being turned off tomorrow at 8 a.m. Is that just our neighborhood on Romer, or, and is this, why is this the first time that's happened to me? Has that happened to you guys?
It
Water's
has
gonna go
happened
off
at one
at
point
8
in
a.m.
time.
for a number of hours, and we got a tag on our doorknob saying, be done with your water by 8 a.m. because it's gonna go off for the rest of the day.
The school may be turning something over. I mean, it's not something we're doing, so maybe we had to shut down a portion of the street. I
Oh, so
don't know.
This is school.
I would think so.
I mean, it happens in various
Shane,
neighborhoods.
what do you know about this?
Shane, what do you
So,
know?
And so here's my question
I mean, I'm
about
just
that.
making an assumption, because we have no water work going on that
And
street.
here's my question about that. If you're gonna do something, it seems to me you could wait till, say, 9 a.m. to do it, rather than 8 a.m.
They probably
to shut-
will, but they probably do that so people don't think that they have until 10.
Nevertheless, you know what I'm saying.
It's like when you set your alarm clock a little earlier, just
It's the
get
summertime.
snooze for a while.
It's the
you know.
summertime, they're gonna shut it down at 8 a.m. It seems
I'll
a
look
little.
into it, Brian. I know nothing about it.
Yeah.
I'm just shooting from the hip here.
It came from Pleasantville,
It would
DPW.
come from our water
Yeah.
department. We probably got notice that we need to shut down for something going on over there.
Okay.
I'm sorry to hear that it's that short notice. Usually you
It's
give people...
very short notice, it came today. And I mean, we literally got the mail this afternoon, it's gonna be shut down at
Okay.
8 a.m. tomorrow morning.
I'll
It's
find
a
out
little
why.
annoying.
Well,
Yeah, that is annoying. I don't blame you. I
All
would,
day, huh?
All day. Well, hours. For the
Real tough.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
This,
can you deal with that for me?
I believe that as an elected official, you are well qualified to represent your neighborhood in this matter. My last thought is that this is the season when lots of Pleasantville kids are making their way off to college, many of them for the first time, and there are lots of departures going on and lots of cars with stuff strapped to the roof. We wish everybody well, remind everybody to represent Pleasantville well, and congratulations to all of those recent PHS graduates who are moving off to the next phase of their life. Is there a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Good
Have a
night.
good night. We will see you again at our next regularly scheduled meeting, Monday, September 13. Drive carefully in school zones as well as everywhere else.
No texting.